We're going to start systems of equations today. And so systems of equations are just multiple equations that we're putting together and solving. Think of them as conditions. So basically you'll have two separate conditions that have to be met to make the statement true. And so we'll not only be dealing with two equations, but we'll also be dealing with two variables that we'll be looking for. And so what we're going to do is just kind of dive in with a big picture problem. It's going to be a word problem. We're going to walk through all the steps, and then we'll kind of back up a little bit and talk about how to solve those without the word problem, and then we'll do some more practice problems. So first thing we do to solve a word problem, we know that there are three main steps: define the variables, create the equation, solve, and then the final step is to define the answer. So we're going to use that same process that we were using with our word problems previously. So first thing we need to do is read and reread the question, highlight or underline anything that's important, and then make notes of the information that we may need to use. Okay, so we know that there's an algebra test and it's worth 100 points. Okay, so total points equals 100. That's important. It contains 35 problems, so total questions, there's 35 of them. Okay, multiple choice questions are worth 2 points each. So there are multiple choice questions. And word problems. And they are worth 7 points each. Okay, so that's all important. And the question is asking how many questions of each type. Okay, so we're going to need to find that out. So here is where we're going to start. So there are two things that we're looking for here. We're looking for the number of multiple choice questions, and we are looking for the number of word problems. Okay, that's what the question is asking us to find. How many of each type of question. So the number of multiple choice and the number of word problems. So we're going to use two separate variables for this. You can use X and Y, you could use P and Z, you can use whatever you want. I'm actually going to use M for multiple choice, and I'm going to use W for word problems. Okay, might as well just make it cohesive. So that's the first step. We know that we're going to be talking about these two variables. Second step is to create equations, and we do need to have two equations. Okay, so we know that the sum of the total points is 100, and we know that the sum of the total questions is 35. And so if we're talking about the number of multiple choice questions, M, plus the number of word problems, W, that should equal 35. So one equation could be M plus W is equal to 35. Okay, because it's the total number of multiple choice questions and the total number of word problems. Now the second one could be a little bit trickier because you have the total number of points. So we know that it's going to equal 100, but we have to represent the points for a multiple choice question and the points for a word problem. And that depends on how many of them we have, and we don't know how many we have. We know that the multiple choice are 2 points each, but we don't know how many multiple choice questions there are. So to represent that, we can represent it as 2 multiplied by the multiple choice questions, because it'll be 2 points per multiple choice question. And then to represent the word problems, we can do the same thing, but we'll do 7W on this one. 7 points per word problem. And so 2M represents the total points for multiple choice questions. 7W represents the total points for word problems, and then we add them together, we equal 100. Okay, so now this is where we start talking about how to solve this. I don't know enough information to be able to solve by plugging in M or W. I don't know what either of those terms is. And so I'm going to have to do a little bit of rearranging some things. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first equation. So I'm going to take M plus W is equal to 35. Okay, so these are my two equations I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to take the first one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of these variables by itself. So I'm going to get m is equal to 35 minus w. Okay, I'm just going to subtract that w over there. So now I know that m is equal to some value that's the same as 35 minus the number of word problems. And so that is enough information that I can substitute that in to the problem and solve. So I'm going to take this second equation. 2m plus 7w equals 100. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I know that m is equal to 35 minus w. So what I'm going to do is plug it in for the value of m. So instead of m, I'm going to actually substitute this expression 35 minus w. So 2 times 35 minus w plus 7w is equal to 100. Okay, and now while it's a messy equation, there's only one variable now, so I can solve it. So I'm going to do 2 times 35, I'm going to distribute, is 70. 2 times negative w is negative 2w, plus 7w is 100. Then I'm going to combine my like terms, and I get plus 5w. And then I'm going to subtract 70, and I get 5w is equal to 30, and then I can just divide. And so I find out that w is the value of 6. Well, that makes my life a lot easier because now I can take that 6 for w and plug it back in up here. So m plus w is 35. So instead of w, okay, I can plug it in right here. So I'd have m plus 6 instead of w is equal to 35. And then that's easy enough to solve. I just subtract 6. And I find m is 29. Okay, so this seems like a lot of information, but it actually makes very logical sense once you sit down and look at it again. So I have found that the number of multiple choice questions is 29, and the number of word problems is 6. Okay, but I need to check and make sure that that fits my criteria.